This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, we will be joined by Kenan Layden of agmarket.net for our closing markets, but first, it is Andy Peterson's conversation about southern rust with the team at Landus.
Well, we're going out in the field here to talk fungal diseases, and specifically one that maybe we don't see very often and hasn't received the attention that tar spot has, and that is southern rust. Dan Bjorkland, outstanding agronomist with the Landus Cooperative, has been out scouting as well, Dan, and I understand that you're finding some of this more uncommon southern rust here in parts of Iowa. Talk to me a little bit about southern rust, because I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of knowledge about it, and from what I am told, I guess it can be just as damaging as tar spot.
In my 46 years as an agronomist, I've seen maybe one other time prior to last year. Last year it came in a little bit later. It came in on the tropical storm Burl that came through the Gulf, and it needs a live host, so it has to overwinter in the south, and it overwinters on a different host than corn. And then when corn is planted January, February in the south, it'll infect corn, and the environment determines, just how severe it gets. It likes warm, wet weather, which is kind of conducive of being in the south. I think the week of the 4th of July, when we had all those southern winds that were just coming up, we were getting dry. I believe it blew in on the southern winds, hit our Iowa farms, and then ever since we've had perfect storm conditions because it's rained every other day, and it's just blew up. But it's a good thing it's not here every year, because you are absolutely correct. What it does is a lot of the diseases that plant breeders develop resistance to, like northern corn leaf blight and gray leaf, they actually stop the spores from penetrating the leaf tissue. Sure. Southern rust just goes right through and tears the leaves as those spores penetrate, and then it opens up areas for the other diseases, so they come along with it. So it can be very devastating. And I'd say this year it is more widespread than tar spot. The last 3 years, looking at tar spot and what it did coming in at the end of July, tar spot could shut plants down 3 or 4 weeks into August, which you don't want corn dead in August. Southern rust did that last year in the areas where it was more severe. So they're hand in hand as far as being destructive.
So treatment-wise, then, most fungicides are good treatment. Is that correct?
I really believe that and I don't want to go in the weeds on this, but the two fungicide modes of action that we normally use are available in all the fungicides, are good on most of the diseases. Not maybe quite as good on southern rust. So you need something called SDHI, which is the third mode of action that I believe Syngenta was the first one who added that. It's also in a couple other fungicides. I think Delaro Complete has one, and I think FMC has one. So you need something that is really active on rust. And I think when Syngenta brought theirs in, probably like 2014, they were looking at controlling soybean rust in Brazil. And so they needed something that was really good on rust. And even there, with the environment that they have, 2 to 3 applications were needed. And Andy, what I'm seeing, how this thing has shifted in 2 weeks. Yesterday, I was in a field at Farmville, and then I'm going to several fields today that had fungicide applications 2 weeks ago, and the rust is still active. It was in the lower canopy. I don't know if it's that the environment is just so highly infectious that there's so many spores floating around in the atmosphere that they're just reinfecting after a couple of weeks. The fact is, and this is not something anybody wants to hear, we may need a second application.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that scouting tool that you were talking about sounds pretty neat. So you're able to detect temperature differences and kind of pinpoint spots in the field to go scout.
I don't really know, when I think about it, how I was able to be very effective in the last few decades. I mean, we didn't know any different, and you go out in a field and you try to cover the field. This one is so good because I can look at a field ahead of time. I can see an area that looks like a slight increase in temperature, and I can draw on my iPad. I think I better check that one out. And that's what I'm going to do today, later on. And then you go into that field, and in the last 4 weeks, 100% of the time, I found disease. It doesn't tell you what disease. It says those plants may be sick. It's sort of like if you go to the doctor and you have a temperature, you don't know what maybe you're coming down with until they check you out. But at least it gives you a warning, an early warning.
Yep. How can we find out more, Dan?
You can call the Grow Solutions Center. That's 515-800-GROW. And we have a good group of agronomists that are manning those phones, and they'll get in touch with one of us out in the country. And we'll be out. We're looking. We have a good team of people out looking every day at clients' fields.
Well, we appreciate the information as always, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you to Dan Bjorkland of Landus for joining today's episode of Ag Matters PM. It is time now for the closing markets. I will be joined by Kenan Layden of agmarket.net next. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Join now for the closing markets on Ag Matters PM by Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. Kenan, how did we trade in the grains here today?
Yeah, not a great day in the grains. Corn was able to hold on to slight positive gains. Soybeans were heavily pressured, and wheat continued to, be mixed on the day depending on the class. Chicago and Minneapolis making new lows, while Kansas City almost had like what you would call a dead cat bounce off of its lows from yesterday. So it's maybe being pressured. Chinese trade deal. Not much has come out of that. China hasn't been buying any soybeans, and there seems to be an extension of trade talks. So the can's kicked a little further down the road. And then weather. Corn kind of fell off a cliff in July when pollination weather was known to be good, and a lot of that soybean yield is set in August, and the forecast looks good. So I think it may be finally settling, market deciding to push it lower.
And with a lot of bearish news right now in the ag marketplace, Kenan, when we think about the areas of positive news, of some potential bullish news, is it just the fact that we do still have that demand on the corn side and we're seeing those good export numbers?
Yeah, demand has been great. And then if you look at like the export free on the board numbers for soybeans, the U.S., without tariffs being the caveat, is actually cheaper than out of Brazil right now, but that 10% tariff makes them a little bit more expensive. Corn is exports have been continued to be very well, as the export inspection showed here. And wheat is also, some of those winter wheat varieties are some of the cheapest free on the board in the world currently. So with the low prices, there is, hopefully some good demand stimulated for exports.
Let's talk about the other side of the ag marketplace now, where it's a little bit better news. What about the livestock side of trade?
Yeah, livestock continue to be on fire, especially in the cattle side, pushing up to new highs today. Cash, it was strong again today with live cattle, 245 in the north, I heard was bid. Feeder cattle index was up the last few days. So cash continues to push the market. One thing to watch there is cutout values on some of that beef. have been falling and unable to hit some of their high levels we saw about a month ago. And that's also true in the pork, the lean hog side of things. Cutout value hasn't been able to reach those early June numbers, which is somewhat concerning. And, we had that little sell-off, and like to see belly prices start going up there and some of those cutout values to kind of support this market. Lean hog index was a little over 110, which is good currently, but something to be watching is those cutout values.
He is Kenan Layden of agmarket.net, my guest here for Closing Markets. Kenan, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yeah, check us out on the web at agmarket.net and check out some of the types of market information we offer.
Thanks so much for the time here today, Kenan. Always appreciate it, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you to Kenan Layden for joining today's show. Let's take a look at how the markets closed today. September corn closes up 2.5 at $391 3/4. August soybeans down 14 cents at $967 3/4. August soybean meal down a penny at $260.70. August soybean oil down $1.04 at $56.50. Chicago wheat down 6 cents at $523 3/4. Minneapolis wheat unchanged at $577. Kansas City hard red wheat up 3.5 cents at $522 even. September oats down 12 cents at $357. On the Merc, August live cattle up $335 at $233.08. August feeder cattle up $275 at $338.95. August lean hogs down 23 cents at $107.03. August pork cutout up $260 at $115 even. Class 3 milk down 9 cents at $17.06. That wraps up our closing markets and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media as well at Facebook and X. You've been watching Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. For the rest of the team, thanks for watching Ag Matters PM.